Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name's Donna Griffin, Cheyenne, Wyoming, and I'm representing myself, but I stand with the thousands of others who oppose this amendment.
On December 14th, more than 100 people arrived in Cheyenne to stand against a proposed state constitutional amendment that would lay the groundwork for transferring federal public lands in Wyoming to the state.
Our organization is dead set opposed to this amendment from the tip of the horse's ears down to the other end.
A wide consensus of people, including Wyoming Governor Matt Mead and the authors of an in-depth report commissioned by the state legislature, agree that Wyoming cannot afford to manage the 27.6 million acres of public land within its borders currently under the jurisdiction of the BLM and the National Forest Service.
From Sweetwater County's perspective, of course, you've read our comments. We reject the idea of transfer of federal lands to the state under any circumstance.
The state lacks the hundreds of millions of dollars it costs each year to manage federal public lands in Wyoming. Unless the federal government also transferred mineral rights to the state, a scenario no one thinks is likely, the state would be forced to sell our public lands. That's why so many people oppose public land transfer and oppose this amendment.
When these lands transfer, there is no guarantee that I'm not going to be locked out of these lands.
Now we're off and we're going to bloviate about theories of what's going to happen. That's not what we're here to do.
The legislative subcommittee meant to rubber stamp this amendment tried to limit public comment on it.
Our charge is simply talking about the language of the constitutional amendment, and that's what our topic is today, and that's what we're going to invite testimony and input on today. What we will not be hearing today is testimony of those both in favor of the bill and why it should move forward, and those against the bill and why it should pass.
It seems clear that a lot of people showed up today to speak against the amendment outright, and although that's not possible, I was wondering if it would please the committee to maybe allow the people to show their opposition by a show of hands.
Well, I appreciate the suggestion, but that's not how we're going to do it today.
Some Wyoming citizens called the lawmakers out on how they were running the meeting.
I'm not a politician, and I respect the process that's somewhat trying to happen here, but I cannot help but feel that that you are really opposing any sort of dissent right now.
I think you've, in fact, undermined the confidence that all of these people have in their ability to address the legislature by limiting this hearing in the way that you're doing.
Others found creative ways to address the amendment's language.
I think, should that ever come to pass, that they try to give us these lands that belong to everybody in the country, by the way, on line 11, let's just say, shall be refused.
I'd like that to state, shall be returned to the United States within 90 days of being granted to the state of Wyoming.
Lands granted to the state after January 1st, 3,099 may be managed for multiple use.
Still others took the opportunity to oppose the amendment regardless of what the committee said.
I totally, completely, 100% object to this amendment.
We don't support any of the language because we don't support the amendment.
I'm opposed to this amendment because I believe that young people have the right to enjoy public lands as I have growing up.
I agree with so many people that this is just a terrible proposal and the languages should just be stricken and thrown away.
You know, I feel a little bit like I'm trying to determine what color of lipstick I want to put on this pig.
We've heard this for 2 hours now, that, by God, everybody that has spoke is literally against the sale of these lands.
Finally, some people suggested the legislature should try to solve public lands problems in ways that would not involve taking control of federal lands or selling them.
If the true intent of this legislative body is to build trust among its citizenship, let's move past this amendment and look to a collaborative, effective solution that can occur.
But the subcommittee ignored the citizens and dismissed opposition to the amendment. It will be introduced with minor changes in the legislative session this month. Hopefully, other lawmakers will listen to the concerns Wyoming citizens have about the future of our public lands for generations to come.
Initially, I failed to tell you who I represent today. And I'm here, I'm sure, as like many people in the room, I'm here representing my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, and my great-great-grandchildren so that they have the same opportunities to experience Wyoming like we all have.